Oh, they remember. Trust me, they remember. That decision, that exact moment when you looked at everything you had, everything you were, everything they told you that you should be, and you said no. Not with words, not with drama, not with some grand announcement, but with action. Pure, undiluted, terrifying action. And they've been watching ever since. Watching, calculating, waiting for you to fail, waiting for you to crawl back, waiting for the universe to prove them right. But here's what's eating them alive right now. What's keeping them up at 3 a.m. scrolling through your life from behind fake accounts and borrowed phones. You didn't fail. You didn't break. You didn't come crawling back. That random decision they laughed at, that choice they called reckless, that move they said would destroy you, it didn't destroy you at all. It rebuilt you. And now they're silent. Not because they have nothing to say, but because everything they want to say would be an admission. An admission that they were wrong. An admission that they doubted you when you were right. An admission that the life they're living, the one they called safe and smart and responsible, is the real gamble. And you're the proof they can't erase. Let's rewind to that moment, shall we? That crossroads where you stood alone. Maybe it was a career change everyone called stupid. Maybe it was walking away from someone everyone said you'd never do better than. Maybe it was moving to a city with no plan, starting a business with no safety net, choosing a path with no guarantee. Whatever it was, you remember the room going quiet when you announced it, don't you? You remember the concerned faces, the passive-aggressive advice, the people who suddenly had opinions about your life when they'd been silent about their own failures for years. They told you to be realistic. They told you to think about the future. They told you that people like you don't just do things like that. People like you, as if they had the authority to define what people like you could become. As if their limitations were universal law. As if their fear was your inheritance. But you looked at their faces, at their careful lives, at their quiet desperation dressed up as stability, and something in you said no, not rebellion for rebellion's sake. Not recklessness for the story, but clarity. Pure, unshakable clarity that their way wasn't your way. Their safe was your slow death. Their realistic was your prison. And so you jumped. Not knowing if there was a net. Not knowing if you'd fly or fall. But knowing, absolutely knowing, that staying was the real danger. And oh, they watched. They watched with that mixture of concern and contempt. That blend of worry and secret hope, that you'd crash so hard they could say they told you so. They watched your first steps, your stumbles, your moments of doubt that you posted about at 2 a.m. when the loneliness hit. They screenshot your struggles. They shared your setbacks in group chats with laughing emojis. They created entire narratives about your downfall before it even happened, already writing the eulogy for your dreams while you were still building the foundation. Because that's what people do when you choose differently. They don't just disagree with your choice. They need you to fail. They need your alternative to be a cautionary tale, because if it's not, if you actually succeed, then what does that say about them? What does that say about the dreams they killed? What does that say about the voice they silenced? What does that say about the life they're living that they call practical but feels like punishment? Your success wouldn't just be your victory. It would be their mirror. And they can't handle that kind of honesty. So they watched, and they waited, and they whispered, and they projected their fears onto your journey like you were the screen and their insecurities were the movie. But here's what happened while they were watching. Here's what they didn't expect. Because they were too busy looking for your failure to see your evolution. You changed. Not just externally, not just in circumstances, but in frequency, in energy, in the very core of who you are. That decision, that leap, it didn't just change your situation. It changed your identity. You stopped being the person who needed permission. You stopped being the person who required validation. You stopped being the person who measured success by their standards. You became something they had no reference point for because you stepped outside the matrix of their understanding. And every day you survived, every small win you accumulated, every obstacle you overcame, it wasn't just progress. It was evidence. Evidence that their way wasn't the only way. Evidence that their fears weren't facts. Evidence that you could build a life they said was impossible. And that evidence, that living, breathing proof of an alternative reality, it terrified them more than your potential failure ever could. Because failure would have been comfortable. Failure would have confirmed their worldview. Failure would have let them sleep at night. But your success, your actual undeniable ascension, that keeps them awake, that makes them question everything, that turns their whole life into a question mark. 6 months passed, then a year, then 2. And the narrative they'd constructed started crumbling. The timelines they'd set for your collapse came and went. The disasters they'd predicted never materialized. Instead, they started seeing things they couldn't explain away. A new opportunity that found you. A connection that elevated you. A skill you developed in the darkness that now shined in the light. A confidence that didn't need their approval. A peace that didn't require their presence. A life that looked nothing like what they'd planned for you, but everything like what you'd envisioned for yourself. And slowly, quietly, their commentary shifted. The jokes stopped. The concern disappeared. The advice dried up. Not because they suddenly supported you, not because they were happy for you, but because they realized something that broke them just a little bit inside. You didn't need them. You never did. The only power they had was the power you gave them. And the moment you took it back, the moment you stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending your choices, stopped seeking their blessing, they became irrelevant, not enemies, not friends. Just irrelevant. Background noise in a life that had moved to a frequency they couldn't tune into anymore. Now let's talk about what's happening right now. Right this second as you're listening to these words. Because they're still watching. Make no mistake about that. They're still clicking on your stories. Still checking your updates. Still monitoring your moves from the shadows. But the energy is different now, isn't it? There's no more mockery, no more warnings, no more predictions of doom, just silence. Heavy, uncomfortable, loaded silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than words ever could. Because what can they say now? What narrative can they spin that doesn't make them look like the fools they were? How do they explain away the fact that everything they said wouldn't work is working? How do they justify the concern that was really just control? How do they walk back years of doubt without admitting they were projecting their own limitations onto your potential? They can't. So they watch in silence. They witness your rise with their mouths closed. They see your victories and swallow their words. And every single day that you continue to thrive, every milestone you reach, every level you unlock, it's another nail in the coffin of the story they tried to write about you. You're not just succeeding. You're rewriting the rules. You're proving that their way isn't the only way. You're living evidence that the system they bought into isn't the only system. And that makes you dangerous. Because let's be clear about what you've actually done here. You didn't just make a decision. You declared independence. You didn't just choose a different path. You rejected their authority over your life. You didn't just survive their doubt. You transformed it into fuel. Every person who said you couldn't, you used their words as weights in your training. Every obstacle they said would stop you, you turned into a stepping stone. Every moment they expected you to quit, you dug deeper. Not to prove them wrong, that's the beautiful part. Not to show them anything, but to prove to yourself that their voices were lies. That their fears were fiction. That their version of reality was just one version, and you could author your own. And now here you stand. Not at the end of the journey because the real ones never end, but at a vantage point they never thought you'd reach. Looking down at where you started. Looking around at where you are. Looking forward at where you're going. And they're down there, somewhere. Still watching. Still silent. still struggling to reconcile the you they predicted with the you that exists. And that dissonance, that gap between their prophecy and your reality, it's destroying them in ways you'll never see, in ways they'll never admit. In quiet moments of reflection, when they look at their own lives and wonder what would have happened if they'd been brave enough to make their own random decision, if they'd been strong enough to ignore the voices, if they'd been crazy enough to believe in themselves the way you believed in yourself. Let me tell you what they see when they look at you now. They see someone who's not asking for permission anymore. They see someone who's not waiting for approval. They see someone who's not living by their timeline or their definitions or their limitations. They see autonomy. They see freedom. They see authenticity. And all of those things, every single one of them, they're mirrors reflecting back what they don't have, what they traded for safety, what they sacrificed for acceptance, what they killed for comfort. Your life isn't just your life anymore. It's a question mark hovering over theirs. It's a constant reminder of the road not taken. It's a living, breathing, thriving alternative universe where courage won and fear lost. And they have to live with that. They have to wake up every day knowing that someone they doubted is living the life they were too afraid to build. Someone they laughed at is experiencing the freedom they were too controlled to chase. Someone they wrote off is writing a story they never had the guts to start. That's not your burden to carry. That's not your responsibility to fix. That's just the natural consequence of choosing yourself when everyone else was choosing fear. That's just what happens when you stop living for their comfort and start living for your calling. That's just the price they pay for being spectators in a game where you became a player. And here's the part they really can't stand. Here's the thing that keeps them refreshing your page at midnight. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're not spending your energy proving anything to them. You're just living, powerfully, purposefully, unapologetically living. You're not in their mentions explaining yourself. You're not writing long posts about your journey. You're not fighting for their validation. You're just doing the work, building the life, becoming the person. And that indifference, that genuine lack of concern for their opinion, it's more devastating than any comeback could be. Because when you argued with them, when you defended yourself, when you cared about their perspective, you gave them relevance. You gave them a role in your story. You made them important. But now, they're just audience members watching a show they can't influence. They can watch. They can have opinions. They can whisper in the dark. But they can't touch you. They can't change you. They can't stop you. And that powerlessness, that complete and total irrelevance, it's the ultimate defeat. Not because you destroyed them, but because you outgrew them. Not because you proved them wrong, but because you proved their opinion doesn't matter. Not because you're better than them, but because you're free, and they're still trapped in the prison of other people's expectations, still living by rules they never questioned, still choosing safety over soul. Now, I need you to understand something critical, something that will separate you from the people who make one bold decision and then spend the rest of their lives looking back. That decision you made, that moment of courage, it wasn't the destination, it was the door. It was the first step in a lifetime of steps. It was the beginning of a pattern, not a singular event. Because the people who truly transform, the ones who don't just survive their bold choice but thrive because of it, they understand that courage is a muscle. Every time you use it, it gets stronger. Every time you choose yourself over their comfort, you expand your capacity. Every time you move forward despite their silence, despite their judgment, despite their secret hope that you'll fail, you're training yourself for the next level. And there's always a next level. There's always a bigger decision. There's always a deeper leap. There's always another moment where the crowd will doubt and you'll have to decide if you're going to shrink back to their size or expand into your potential. And if you're listening to these words right now, if you're feeling that resonance in your chest, that knowing in your bones, then you already know the answer. You've tasted freedom. You've felt what it's like to choose yourself. You've experienced the power of trusting your vision over their fear. And once you taste that, once you feel that, there's no going back. There's only forward, only higher, only deeper into the life you were meant to live. So what happens next? What happens now that you've made it past the point where they expected you to fail? Now that their silence has become your soundtrack? Now that their doubt has become your fuel? Now that their watching has become irrelevant, simple? You keep building, you keep growing, you keep evolving, but not for them, not to prove anything, not to make them regret their doubt or admit their mistake. For you, for the vision only you can see, for the potential only you can feel, for the life only you can live. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. Here's the truth that terrifies them most. Your story isn't about them at all. It never was. They were just extras in a movie where you're the main character. They were just background noise in a symphony where you're the soloist. They were just spectators in an arena where you're the champion. And the moment you truly internalize that, the moment you stop making them relevant to your narrative, that's when you become unstoppable. That's when you transcend their understanding. That's when you move into a realm where their opinion is just weather, changing and irrelevant, while you're the mountain, solid and unmoved. And mountains don't explain themselves to clouds. Mountains don't justify their height to valleys. Mountains just stand, powerful, present, permanent. While everything else shifts and changes and eventually fades away, let's talk about the ripple effects for a moment. Because that decision you made, it didn't just change your trajectory, it changed the trajectory of everyone watching. Some of them, the ones with courage hiding under their fear, they saw you jump and something inside them woke up. Something that had been sleeping under years of should and supposed to and better not. You became their permission slip, their proof of concept, their evidence that the jump is survivable. And somewhere out there, someone you'll never meet made their own random decision because you made yours. Someone walked away from their own toxic situation because you walked away from yours. Someone chose their own dreams over someone else's expectations because you showed them it could be done. That's legacy. That's impact. That's the real measure of success. Not the money you make, or the status you achieve, or the things you accumulate, but the permission you give others, just by living your truth, just by being brave, just by choosing yourself when the world was choosing you to stay small. And the beautiful irony is that the people who doubted you, who watched you in silence, who secretly hoped you'd fail, they have to live in a world where your decision created a ripple, where your courage inspired others, where your success made their doubt look foolish not just to you but to everyone else who was watching them watch you. They're not just wrong, they're exposed. Their fear isn't just personal anymore. It's public. It's on display. It's a case study in what happens when you let other people's dreams die because you're too afraid to live your own. But let's get darker for a second. Let's go to the place most won't. Because some of those silent watchers, they're not just uncomfortable. They're not just embarrassed. They're broken. Legitimately broken by your success. Their entire identity was built on being the smart one, the practical one, the one who knew better, the one who made the right choices. And you came along and shattered that identity with your results. You proved that their right was actually wrong, that their smart was actually scared, that their better was actually bitter. And when someone's entire sense of self is built on a lie, when their whole life is organized around a false belief, and then reality comes along and exposes that belief as fiction, it doesn't just hurt them, it destroys them. They have to reconstruct everything. They have to question every choice they made. They have to look at their partner, their job, their city, their life, and ask if they're there because they wanted to be, or because they were too afraid to want anything else. And that kind of existential crisis, that level of self-examination, most people can't handle it. So they don't. They just stay silent. They just keep watching. They just live with the quiet knowledge that they were wrong and you were right, and there's nothing they can do about it now, except watch you become more right every single day. That's not your responsibility to fix. That's not your burden to carry. That's just the natural consequence of their choices meeting your choices in the arena of reality. You chose courage, they chose comfort. You chose growth, they chose safety. You chose yourself, they chose approval. And now everyone gets to see what each choice produces. Here's what they'll never tell you directly, but what you need to hear. They're proud of you. Somewhere under the silence, under the discomfort, under the ego that won't let them admit they were wrong, there's a part of them that's genuinely proud. That looks at what you've built and feels a warmth they can't explain. That sees your success and experiences joy they immediately suppress because it doesn't fit the narrative they've been telling themselves. That watches you thrive and thinks for just a moment before the fear rushes back in, maybe I could do that too. But they'll never say it. They'll never acknowledge it. They'll never give you that recognition, because giving you that would mean admitting too much. It would mean confessing their doubt. It would mean revealing their fear. It would mean showing their hand. So they stay silent. And in that silence, you have to find your own validation. You have to become your own cheerleader. You have to look at your journey, at your growth, at your transformation and say, I'm proud of me. I'm amazed by me. I'm grateful for me. Because if you're waiting for them to say it, you'll be waiting forever. If you're building your sense of worth on their eventual approval, you're building on sand. If you're measuring your success by their acknowledgement, you're using the wrong ruler. Your validation has to come from within. Your pride has to be self-generated. Your celebration has to be internal. Not because you're selfish, not because you're arrogant, but because you're free. Free from the need for their approval. Free from the hunger for their recognition. Free from the dependency on their validation. And that freedom, that self-sourced sense of worth, it's the final evolution. It's the ultimate level. It's the place where their silence doesn't hurt anymore because you're too loud with self-love to hear it. Oh no. Wait, hold up. Do you see what I'm seeing right now? Because if you're watching this, you already know. You've already noticed it, haven't you? The way they walk now, the way they talk now, the way they suddenly got enlightened after spending months, maybe years, trying to dim your light. Let me guess. They told their friends you were toxic, posted cryptic stories about cutting off fake people, maybe even blocked you, ghosted you, made you the villain in every group chat they could infiltrate. They wanted you gone, wanted you broken, wanted you erased from the narrative completely, right? But here's the thing that's got me absolutely losing it right now. Here's the part that's so twisted, it's almost beautiful. They couldn't kill your vibe, so now they're wearing it like a costume. They're walking around in your energy, talking in your cadence, posting your philosophies, living your lifestyle, copying your boundaries, mimicking your growth, and pretending like they invented the whole thing. Bro, look at this. This is actually insane. This is psychological warfare turned into identity theft, and I need you to understand just how deep this rabbit hole goes, because what's happening to you right now, what you're witnessing in real time, this isn't coincidence, and it damn sure isn't flattery. Let's rewind for a second, because context is everything in this story, and your story, it's got layers they don't want anyone to see. There was a time, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, when you were in their circle. You trusted them, shared your dreams with them, let them see your struggles, your healing process, your transformation. You were raw, real, unfiltered in your growth, and they were right there watching it all. But here's what you didn't see then. Here's what you couldn't have known while you were busy actually evolving. They weren't celebrating you, they were studying you. Every boundary you set, they took notes on that. Every time you walked away from drama, they screenshot that energy. Every post you made about choosing peace over chaos, about protecting your energy, about not explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, they bookmarked that. They watched you go silent on social media for months while you healed, then come back glowing. And they documented every single phase like they were writing a thesis on how to steal someone's entire essence. And then, they tried to destroy it, didn't they? Because before they could become you, they needed to make sure the original version was eliminated from the equation. They started the whisper campaigns, turned mutual friends into investigators, painted you as the problem in every situation, twisted your words, exaggerated your flaws, downplayed your trauma, and made sure everyone knew their version of events before you even realized there was a story being told. They needed you discredited, needed you isolated, needed you so broken that when they showed up wearing your personality 6 months later, nobody would connect the dots. They tried to assassinate your character so thoroughly that your resurrection would look like their original creation. Think about how calculated that is, how sociopathic that level of planning requires, how deeply they studied you to know exactly which parts to steal and exactly how to frame the theft as innovation. But you survived, didn't you? You didn't just survive. You evolved in the silence, grew in the darkness, healed in the isolation they forced you into, and came back different, stronger, clearer, more aligned than you'd ever been. And that's when the shift happened. That's when the whole thing flipped. That's when they realized their biggest mistake. See, they thought destroying you would create a vacuum, a space they could fill with their version of you, a knockoff that people would accept because the original was gone. But instead, you came back undeniable, and suddenly their campaign against you looked like jealousy, their criticisms looked like projection, their stories looked like lies, and everyone started seeing through the performance. So they pivoted, and this pivot, this is where it gets absolutely unhinged. They couldn't destroy you, so they decided to become you instead. Now, let's talk about what that actually looks like, because I need you to see this clearly so you understand you're not crazy for noticing. You're not paranoid for feeling it. You're not overthinking when you see them literally morphing into your energy signature. First, the surface level stuff. The obvious theft that anyone paying attention can clock immediately. They're using your phrases now, the exact words you coined, the specific ways you describe your journey, the metaphors you created to explain your healing. Suddenly those are coming out of their mouth like they thought of them independently. They're posting quotes you lived by back when they were mocking you for being too deep or too spiritual or too intense about your growth. Remember when you talked about setting boundaries and they called you cold? Now they're posting 10 slide carousels about the importance of boundaries, acting like they discovered the concept yesterday. Remember when you went silent to heal, and they spread rumors you were bitter, jealous, plotting revenge? Now they're posting about taking social media breaks for mental health, and everyone's praising them for being so self-aware, so mature, so evolved. But it goes deeper than phrases and posts. It goes into the energetic realm, into the way they've restructured their entire personality around yours. The way they dress now, it's shifted toward your aesthetic, isn't it? If you wore minimalist, they're suddenly into minimalism. If you wore bold, statement pieces, they're suddenly fashion forward. If you got into fitness, meditation, journaling, reading, creating, whatever your healing practices were, give it 3 months and check their routine. I guarantee they've adopted the same practices, joined the same communities, started posting about the same philosophies, acting like they discovered this path on their own, through their own journey, their own pain, their own growth. They'll even copy your trauma responses and call it their healing journey, steal your story beats and rearrange them just enough to avoid direct plagiarism, but not enough to hide the source material. And the friends, the friends they chose after pushing you out. Notice something? They're your type of people, aren't they? The kind of souls you naturally gravitated toward, the artists, the thinkers, the healers, the rebels. the authentic ones, who see through surface-level nonsense. They're surrounding themselves with your tribe, infiltrating your energetic frequency, building a whole new circle that looks suspiciously identical to the community you cultivated before they scorched the earth. They're even using your music taste now, going to the same kind of events you loved, visiting the same spots you introduced them to, but now claiming as their own discoveries, rewriting history in real time while everyone watches and somehow doesn't see the pattern. But here's where it gets really sick, really twisted, really beyond just copying surface-level behaviors. They're taking credit for their own transformation, framing this whole identity shift as their personal growth journey, their awakening, their evolution, and completely erasing the fact that they're literally wearing your blueprint like a second skin. They'll post long captions about how they finally found themselves after cutting off toxic people. That's you, by the way. You're the toxic person in this revised narrative. How they learned to set boundaries from watching you set boundaries. How they discovered the importance of inner peace after trying to destroy yours. How they grew through pain they inflicted on you, then absorbed the aesthetic of. They're not just stealing your vibe, they're stealing your entire hero's journey and casting themselves as the protagonist while you're supposedly the villain they had to overcome to reach enlightenment. Let's examine the psychology here for a minute, because understanding why this happens is crucial to not losing your mind over it. And trust me, this level of identity theft can make you question reality if you don't have a framework to process it. What you're dealing with is something psychologists call mirroring, but not the healthy kind, not the natural mimicry that happens between people who genuinely connect. No, this is predatory mirroring, parasitic mirroring, the kind that happens when someone has no core identity of their own, so they consume others to fill the void. These are people who spent so long performing for different audiences, shape-shifting to fit various social contexts, playing whatever role got them validation, that they never actually developed an authentic self, never sat with themselves long enough to know who they are when nobody's watching, never did the internal work to build a personality from the ground up. And then you came along, actually authentic, actually aligned, actually living your truth regardless of who approved, and something in them recognized what they'd never built in themselves. They saw your integrity and wanted it, saw your peace and needed it, saw your growth and coveted it. But here's the crucial part. They didn't want to do the work to earn it, didn't want to face their own shadows, their own pain, their own unhealed trauma, their own fragmented self. So instead of going inward, instead of building themselves up, instead of doing their own healing work, they decided to hollow you out and wear you as a mask. They tried to destroy you first, because if you still existed in your full power, the contrast would be too obvious, the theft would be too blatant, the imitation would be too pathetic. But since you survived, since you're still here, still glowing, still growing, still undeniably you, now they have to perform this strange dance of becoming you while simultaneously maintaining the lie that you were never worth becoming in the first place. And the audacity, the sheer audacity of this whole operation, is what should actually help you detach from anger and move into something more powerful, something more useful, something closer to pity mixed with amusement. Because think about what they're really admitting by doing this. Think about what this behavior actually reveals about their internal state, their self-perception, their entire relationship with reality. By stealing your vibe, they're confessing that your vibe was worth stealing, that your energy was powerful enough to covet, that your transformation was real enough to replicate, that everything they said about you being toxic, fake, problematic, whatever labels they used, all of that was a lie they told themselves to justify the envy eating them alive from the inside. They're walking around in your skin telling everyone they invented the design, and every single person who actually knows both of you can see the truth, can clock the timeline, can remember who you were before they decided to perform as you. But here's the plot twist. Here's the part that should bring you more satisfaction than any revenge fantasy ever could. Here's the ultimate cosmic joke in this whole situation. They can copy your style, but they can't copy your substance. They can mimic your words, but they can't match your wisdom. They can steal your practices, but they can't steal your purpose. They can wear your energy like a costume, but they can't embody your essence, because essence isn't something you can plagiarize. It's something you earn through actual experience, actual pain, actual growth, actual time in the trenches of your own soul. Every boundary they set while copying you is hollow, because they never faced the violation that taught you boundaries were necessary. Every meditation practice they adopt is performative, because they never sat with the chaos that made you seek silence. Every healing modality they claim is surface level, because they never touched the wounds that forced you to learn how to heal. So while they're out here playing dress up in your personality, posting your philosophies for likes, adopting your lifestyle for aesthetic points, you're continuing to evolve, continuing to grow, continuing to become more refined, more authentic, more aligned, and the gap between the original and the copy keeps widening with every passing day. They're stuck performing last year's version of you while you're already 3 transformations ahead, already moved past those phases, already integrated those lessons, already building something new they haven't even conceived of yet, already operating on a frequency they're still trying to decode. And that's the part that's going to haunt them, not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, when they realize no matter how perfectly they copy the external, they'll never access the internal, never touch the real source of your power, never understand the alchemy that turned your pain into purpose, your trauma into triumph, your betrayal into breakthrough. Now, let's address the people watching this happen, the mutual friends, the family members, the audience witnessing this identity theft in real time, because their role in this is more complex than you might think. Some of them see it. They absolutely see it. They clock the mimicry, recognize the theft. Notice how suddenly this person who spent months dragging your name is now embodying everything you stood for. But they stay silent. Why? Because it's easier. Because calling it out would create drama. Because maybe they benefit from staying neutral. Because perhaps they like the new version of your copycat better than they liked dealing with the complicated reality of you. Because addressing the theft would force them to admit they watched the assassination attempt, maybe even participated in it, and now they'd have to reckon with their own complicity in something that turned out to be jealousy masked as concern. And then there are the people who genuinely don't see it, who buy the performance completely, who believe this person naturally evolved into this version of themselves, who take the transformation at face value because they weren't there for the before, didn't witness the campaign, don't have the full context, don't know your story well enough to recognize your chapters being plagiarized right in front of them. These people, they're not your concern. They're not your responsibility to educate. They're not the audience that matters in your story. Because anyone who would truly resonate with the authentic you would eventually see through the counterfeit anyway. Energy doesn't lie. Authenticity can't be faked forever. And sooner or later the mask slips, the costume tears, the performance gets exhausting, and the real person underneath, the empty person who never did the work, that person reveals themselves inevitably. But let's get into what you should actually do with this information, because recognition without action is just rumination, and rumination will poison you faster than their theft ever could. First, and this is crucial, you need to understand that their imitation is not about you anymore. It stopped being about you the moment you walked away, the moment you chose peace, the moment you refused to engage with their narrative. From that point forward, this became about them, about their emptiness, about their desperate need to be seen as something they're not, about their inability to sit with themselves, about their fear of being nobody if they're not performing as somebody, and that somebody just happened to be you because you were the closest example of authentic transformation they'd ever witnessed up close. Second, resist the urge to call them out publicly. Resist the temptation to post receipts, to create comparison timelines, to expose the theft for everyone to see, because here's what happens when you do that. You look bitter. You look stuck. You look like you're still invested in their opinion, still affected by their behavior, still giving them power over your emotional state. And that's exactly what they're hoping for, somewhere in their subconscious. They're hoping you'll react, hoping you'll create drama, hoping you'll look crazy so they can point and say, "See, this is why we had to distance ourselves. Look how unstable they are. Look how obsessed they are with us. Look how they can't move on." Don't give them that satisfaction. Don't hand them that narrative. Don't sacrifice your peace for temporary vindication. Because the vindication you're seeking, the validation you're craving, that doesn't come from them or anyone watching them. It comes from you, from knowing your truth, from walking your path, from continuing to be undeniably yourself while they exhaust themselves trying to keep up with your evolution. Third, and this might sound counterintuitive, but stay with me here. Let them copy you. Let them steal your entire aesthetic. Let them adopt every single thing that makes you you. Because here's the secret they don't know. Here's the trap they walked into willingly. Every time they copy you, they're admitting defeat. Every time they adopt your practices, they're confessing inadequacy. Every time they mirror your growth, they're revealing their emptiness. And the more they become like you, the more obvious it becomes that they spent all that energy trying to destroy something they secretly wanted to become. And that realization, when it finally hits them in a moment of clarity they can't escape, that's going to hurt them more than anything you could ever say or do to expose them. Fourth, use this as fuel, not for revenge, but for evolution. Let their theft motivate you to go deeper into yourself, to develop new aspects of your personality they haven't studied yet, to explore new territories of growth they can't access, because they're still stuck performing your past while you're building your future. Every time you notice them copying something you did last year, smile internally knowing you're already somewhere they can't follow, already operating on levels they can't comprehend, already building things they can't conceptualize, because they're too busy maintaining the illusion of being you to actually become themselves. Fifth, protect your energy moving forward. Learn the lesson this situation is teaching you about sharing your journey with people who haven't earned access to your transformation, about being selective with who gets to witness your evolution, about understanding that not everyone celebrating your growth is actually rooting for your success. Some people are just studying the blueprint so they can replicate it and claim it as their own. And while that's not your fault, while you shouldn't have to guard your authenticity like a trade secret, you can definitely become more discerning about who gets the behind-the-scenes access, who gets to see the rough drafts, who gets to witness the process before the product is finished. And finally, the most important thing, the thing that will set you free from any lingering attachment to this situation, any remaining anger about the audacity, any persistent confusion about how this is even happening. Remember this: they can copy everything about you except the one thing that actually matters. They can't copy your story. They can't replicate your specific pain that led to your specific healing. They can't reproduce your unique combination of experiences, traumas, victories, failures, lessons, revelations, breakthroughs, setbacks, and the wisdom that emerged from navigating all of that. They can perform your practices, but they can't possess your purpose. They can mirror your energy, but they can't match your frequency. They can steal your vibe, but they can't touch your soul. And that's what makes you unreplicatable, irreplaceable, unforgettable. Not your style, not your words, not your aesthetic, but the essence underneath all of it. The authentic core they're trying to copy, without realizing it's not something that can be copied. It's something that has to be built, earned, lived, breathed, suffered for, fought for, bled for, and ultimately owned in a way that makes it undeniably yours regardless of who tries to perform as you. Building things they can't conceptualize because they're too busy maintaining the illusion of being you to actually become themselves. Fifth, protect your energy moving forward. Learn the lesson this situation is teaching you about sharing your journey with people who haven't earned access to your transformation, about being selective with who gets to witness your evolution, about understanding that not everyone celebrating your growth is actually rooting for your success. Some people are just studying the blueprint so they can replicate it and claim it as their own. And while that's not your fault, while you shouldn't have to guard your authenticity like a trade secret, you can definitely become more discerning about who gets the behind-the-scenes access, who gets to see the rough drafts, who gets to witness the process before the product is finished. And finally, the most important thing, the thing that will set you free from any lingering attachment to this situation, any remaining anger about the audacity, any persistent confusion about how this is even happening. Remember this: they can copy everything about you except the one thing that actually matters. They can't copy your story. They can't replicate your specific pain that led to your specific healing. They can't reproduce your unique combination of experiences, traumas, victories, failures, lessons, revelations, breakthroughs, setbacks, and the wisdom that emerged from navigating all of that. They can perform your practices, but they can't possess your purpose. They can mirror your energy, but they can't match your frequency. They can steal your vibe, but they can't touch your soul. And that's what makes you unreplicatable, irreplaceable, unforgettable. Not your style, not your words, not your aesthetic, but the essence underneath all of it. The authentic core they're trying to copy, without realizing it's not something that can be copied. It's something that has to be built, earned, lived, breathed, suffered for, fought for, bled for, and ultimately owned in a way that makes it undeniably yours regardless of who tries to perform as you.